Hi, this is Phyllis, and welcome back to my channel today. Today we will make these heart fringed earrings. We will make the one on the right today. The one on the left is done, but I don't think I like it as much as I like the earring on the right. So for today's video, we will be making the earring that's on the right. Stay tuned if you like this project for my materials list, and we'll get started. The materials for today's project are 2 colors of size 11 seed beads. I'm using a white pearl and a red, and I'm using 3mm bicones in the light Comet Argent color. I'm using stainless steel wire guardian and ear wires. My needle, my Fireline scissors. I'm using NanoFil in the clear mist color, and that's going to be for the top of the earring. And I'm going to use 1G thread for the fringe part of the earring, and my bead board. I'm using my round bead board today. I'm going to start off by threading my needle with the NanoFil with about just a little under a yard of thread to make the top of the earring, and I'll get back on once I get my needle threaded. We're going to begin the project by doing a ladder stitch, and I'm going to begin my ladder stitch by stringing on 4 seed beads. I'm going to pull my thread down, leave myself about a 4-inch tail just because I just want to hold on to it. And I have 2 of my seed beads sitting here, the other 2 on my needle, and I'm going to pass my needle back up into those 2 seed beads there. And I'm going to hold on to the seed beads that I have and pull my thread just like that. And this begins our ladder stitch. This is going to be repetitive. So in order to continue adding rows to your ladder stitch, you have to reposition. So we're going to add, reposition, and repeat. So that's going to be our little mantra that we're going to have there. So right now I've pulled my needle down into that second set of seed beads, and I have to add my thread from my beads from this way, and we're going to continue this ladder stitch. I strung on 2 seed beads. I'm going to pass my needle down into the second set of seed beads here and pull the thread. So, and then of course this is going to happen. Rearrange them and pass your needle back up. From here now, and if they separate, just tug on them a little bit. Tug on them in the direction that the thread is exiting the seed beads. So to continue, you string on 2 seed beads, pass your needle up into that set of seed beads that you just added, and pull your thread, and they get into position. Tug on them so make sure that you don't have any gaps, and pass your needle down into the second set of seed beads that you added. Just make sure that you don't have any thread gaps. Put your thumb on the seed bead and just pull that thread, and it will tighten up for you. And do that on the tail side too, just to make sure you don't have any gaps. Then I'm going to string on 2 seed beads, pass my needle down into that last set of seed beads that I added, which means that they're on there. Just reposition now, by sliding your needle up into that last set of seed beads that you just put on. And if your tail gets in the way, just move it along. Now you're in position to add another row. String on 2 seed beads. Pass your needle up into that previous set that you just added, and back down into the current set of seed beads for repositioning, and just to look at your work to make sure that you don't have any thread gaps. We're going to continue to do this until we have 11 rows. And once we have 11 rows, we're going to reinforce those rows by going back into each of the rows that you added until you get back to the beginning, and your working thread is going to be exiting this first set of seed beads going in that direction, and your tail thread is coming down here. So when we have that, I will meet you here, okay? We're here now. I have my 11 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I did my reinforcing. I reinforced each one. I passed my needle back down to through each row, alternately in the direction that the thread was going. And now I'm exiting here the first set of seed beads that I added. My tail thread is coming this way, and my working thread is going up this way. And I like to do brick stitch working from my right to my left. I don't know why that's my preference, but it seems to work for me. I have better luck going this way. So now to begin our brick stitch, we're going to pick up 2 size 11 seed beads, and we're going to start out each row of the brick stitch with 2 seed beads. And the reason for that is because if you use 1 seed bead, you're going to see the thread on the outside of your work, and that's what we're trying to avoid. We don't want to see that thread. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to, hopefully that you can see this, between each row of the ladder stitch here, you have thread bridges, and we're going to use these thread bridges to make our brick stitch. I'm going to skip the first thread bridge here, and I'm going to pass my needle into the second thread bridge this way. I'm going to pass my needle coming towards me, and I'm going to pull my thread, and once those beads sit down, what you're going to do is pass your needle up into that second seed bead that you just added. I'm turning it this way because sometimes if you pass your needle up into your seed bead, sometimes you could pull the seed bead off if you miss or go back up under your thread bridge. So that's what I was trying to avoid. I was trying to avoid pulling my bead off. And once I pass my my thread back in that second seed bead, you'll see my setup that I have here. And from this point, what you're going to do is you're going to string on 1 seed bead and pass your needle under the next thread bridge, and of course get my tail thread stuck in there, of course. And I'm not going to cut that off yet because I'm going to weave it in later. So once I have I pulled my seed bead up under that thread bridge, and I'm just going to go in here now. I'm trying to focus. It seems a little out of focus. All right, here we are. I'm going to pass my needle up into that seed bead and pull the thread and tighten down on it. If you have to use your finger to tighten down on it to make it sit where you want it. And you continue doing the same thing. You string on a seed bead, pass your needle up into this next thread bridge, pull your thread, and then pass the needle up into, okay, pass the needle up into that seed bead. And pull the thread, just tighten down on it by pulling it in that direction. And don't poke yourself. Same thing. String on a seed bead and pass the needle this way into the thread bridge and pass the needle up into that seed bead. And we're going to continue this until you get to the last thread bridge that you have, and I'm going to meet you there once I get to the end. So I'll see you there in a minute. I'm at the point where I only have one thread bridge left on this row, and I strung on one size 11 seed bead, and I'm going to pass my needle here under that thread bridge, just like we've been doing, and passing the needle back up into that seed bead. So this is what we have right now. We've got our ladder stitch base and our first row of brick stitch, and from here on it's going to be repetitive. Make sure you tighten down your thread here, and sometimes the beads on the end when you do your two have the tendency to sit up, but that's okay, because when you get back across and you add that last seed bead, it's going to make that seed bead lay down. So I like to work this way, and we're going to do the same thing that we just did. We're going to do our next row of brick stitch, and if you can see, brick stitch is naturally decreasing the way we do it here. So right now I don't have 11 seed beads. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and your rows are going to decrease by 1 as you continue to make your brick stitch rows. So I strung on my 2 seed beads here, and I'm going to skip the first thread bridge, and I'm going to pass my needle under the second thread bridge today, yes, coming towards me again, and then I'm going to pass my needle up into the second seed bead here. And tighten down on it. And now we continue with 1. You string on 1 seed bead, and you find your next thread bridge. You pass your needle under that thread bridge, and then pass your needle into that last seed bead that you just added. And you continue doing this all the way across. Pick up 1 seed bead and pass your needle under the next thread bridge, and then you pass your needle up into that seed bead to secure it, and you keep doing that all the way across until it's time to turn around and continue going. But what I want you to do is continue all the way across and all the way up until you only have 3 seed beads left, and then we'll do the last one together and put on our wire guardian. I'm at the point where I have 3 seed beads at the top of my brick stitch now, and we are going to continue as we have been doing by stringing on our last row. I strung on 2 of my size 11 seed beads, and I'm going to do what I've been doing and passing my needle under that second thread bridge there, and passing my needle up into that second seed bead. All right, and I'm going to pull my thread tightly here so that those seed beads sit down. Now I'm going to reinforce this top row, but I'm going to do that with the addition of the wire guardian. First I'm going to start off by squeezing this guardian shut, or squeezing the ends tighter together, and I'm gonna start here where I have been on my right side, and I'm gonna string on my wire guardian and pass the needle around the groove and the second hole. So and the groove and the second hole and that top seed bead. Pull that down there. Okay, look at that. I'm glad this happened while you were watching. The wire guardian is separated on that side. That's not a problem. Sometimes you'll find them like that. Usually if you don't have any knots or anything, I think I had a knot there. And if you don't have any knots in your thread, you should be able to pull that down without anything happening. But I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers here and squeeze that to make sure that the thread doesn't come out of there. And we'll go again. I'm going to pass my needle around again the groove of the wire guardian and this second hole and that top seed bead there, and hold on and pull tightly to make sure that the thread is in the groove of the guardian and that it is on the inside and not on the outside. And what we're going to do is reinforce this top row by going back into the seed bead that's next to where we are exiting. You're going to go back up into that seed bead and the first hole of the guardian and tighten down on your thread there so you can see, so you don't have any exposed thread right there. Continue passing your needle around that wire guardian and the second hole, and if you can, into that top seed bead again, and hold your finger over your guardian so that the thread will set into the groove there. So now what we want to do is secure this thread. And how I secure the thread is by passing my needle through some seed beads, and I don't want to go on the outside. I want to do this on the inside here. So my thread is coming out of this top seed bead under the guardian. I'm going to pass the needle down into the bead that's under it, and a couple more if I can. And if I can't, maybe one. All right, so I got two. So I'm going down into these two seed beads. And the only thing I'm going to do now, once I'm here, is I'm just going to take my needle and go into the next door seed bead here and pass it here in that direction. And I'm going to go into this next door seed bead and pass down into this direction. And I'm going to go down into maybe, I don't know, one or two of these on the side here. And I'm going to pass my needle into the next door seed bead here. Going up. Wow. Snow falling off the roof. That's good. Pass my needle that way. And this thread should be fixed now, as they say. It's fixed. It is secure. It's not going anywhere. Just pass into a couple of these seed beads and get my nippers or my scissors that I'm using today and stretch that. Stretch it and cut that off. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the needle to my tail thread. And when I do that, I'm going to fix the thread or secure it in the same way, just to the tail thread. What I'm going to do is my tail thread is exiting this seed bead here. I'm going to pass my needle up into the ladder stitch, and if I can, up into a couple more of the seed beads that are in the brick stitch, and I'm going to just alternately weave that tail thread in and then cut it off. And once I get done with that, I will see you back so that we can start our fringe. I strung a significant amount of thread onto my needle, and for the fringe part of the earring, I'm using my 1G thread. I need a thread that's not stiff so that the fringe can dance. So I've got about 2.5 yards of thread on my needle, and how we are going to begin just to attach the thread is I've got my needle, I pass my needle in this direction on the 6th bead from the left. So the 6th bead on the left, and I have my needle exiting, going up towards the wire guardian. And I'm just going to start here. And what I want to do is I want to secure the thread. I'm going to leave a little tail so that we can get started. Not maybe, what is this, 2.5 inches of tail, and I'm going to just weave my thread back into the next door bead. And I'm hoping that the color that I'm using is going to disappear into these white seed beads and be invisible in the red ones. So I'm going to go here. You want to hold on to it so they don't slide, and I'm just going to go this way and back down this bead, up this way. And by this time, the thread should be secured. And what I mean by that is when you pull your thread here, that tail shouldn't be moving, but it is. So continue on. I can, and I'm glad that this is happening while you're with me. So I can go down this way here. And let's see if that does anything, if that helps. And that really, oh, that helped. So, okay, it helped a little. The tail is moving just a little. However, we have enough that I can secure it. So I pulled it down. I pulled the tail thread down some so that I can have some tail thread available to weave into my brick stitch. So I have about 4 inches of tail thread here that I can weave up in, into the brick stitch when I'm done adding the fringe, and that way we will make sure that thread is not going to move. It is going to be secure. So I'm just going to continue with my working thread into down here, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a needle on my tail thread, and I'm going to secure this this tail thread into this brick stitch and cut it off, and then we will begin our fringe. I completed weaving in my threads and my tail thread, and now my working thread is exiting this way from the bottom seed bead of the ladder stitch. I'm going to begin stringing my fringe, and I'm going to cut away. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing, and I'm going to cut away each time I add a line of my fringe. So the first line is going to begin with all of the white seed beads, and I have 25 white seed beads strung on my thread. To complete this line, I'm going to add a 3mm bicone and a white seed bead. I'm going to pull my threads all the way down and bring the beads flush against the ladder stitch, and I'm going to skip over that last white 11 seed bead, and I'm going to pass my needle all the way up through all of these beads. And if you can get all of them at once, that's fine. If not, you make a couple of passes, but just make sure that you don't miss any or leave any gaps. So I'm passing mine through a couple of times, and once I get to the top, I'm going to go into my ladder stitch and pull all of these beads tight. I pulled all of that thread back through all of these beads and up into my ladder stitch row, and now I'm going to reposition and get ready for the next fringe, adding fringe beads by passing my needle down into the next row of the ladder stitch. And when you pull your thread, just make sure that there are no gaps in the thread. And when you get here, and you could spread them, you could stretch your work, you know, move your beads down a little bit just to make sure that they're not stiff, that they're too tight, that they're stiff. You just want to make sure that there are no gaps in your thread. And I'm going to be back with the next succession of beads. Our next fringe column is going to be made up of 7 of the white beads, 6 of the red beads, and 15 more of the white beads. At the end of that, you'll place your 3mm bicone and a white bead. And what you're going to do is pull all of these beads up, and when you get ready to attach or make your row here, you skip the white bead that's at the end of this row, this column here, this column of beads, and you go back up into all of these beads, the crystal and all of these beads, and you're going to reposition by coming into the 2 rows of your ladder stitch and into the next row of ladder stitch going in that direction, and then I'll be back to show you the next line of beads. Our next column of beads is 6 white, 1 red, 6 white, 1 red, 17 white, a bicone, and 1 white seed bead. And again, you skip over the white seed bead and pass through all of the beads here and reposition yourself coming down the next ladder stitch row, and I will show you the next succession of beads. Now we are stringing 5 white seed beads, 1 red, 1 white, 6 red, 1 white, 1 red, 19 white, 1 3mm bicone, and 1 white seed bead. And then we're going to back ourselves back up here and reposition for the next line. Next we have 6 white, 1 red, 1 white, 6 red, 1 white, 1 red, 21 white, a bicone, and 1 white. And I'll meet you when we get ready to do the next line. So next we have 7 white, 1 red, 1 white, 6 red, 1 white, 1 red, 23 white, and of course our bicone and our white seed bead. And we're going to go right back up and reposition here. Now take note that this string of beads is our center and the longest string, and we got a little discrepancy going on with our beads here because they're not uniform, so I'm not really worried about it. I just want to make sure that I can define the heart that I'm making. But from this point on, after you make this line of beads, the only thing you do is mirror the ones that you've done before it. So for example, when you get over here and you make this line of beads, it's going to mirror this one. The next line is going to mirror this one, and so on and so forth until the last one that you do is the 25 white beads in your bicone and your white bead on the bottom. And then we'll get back together when it's time to add the ear wire. I completed adding all of my fringe, and now we have the dramatic heart effect for our little heart fringed earrings. I really think it's cute. And what I did was I passed my thread back up into some of these, my brick stitch, and I secured the thread and cut it off. And the only thing we have left to do now is to attach our ear wire. And I think I may have forgotten to tell you that you need a plier. Well, we need a plier anyway. We have to find the opening of this ear wire, and we just twist. We twist it, and once we twist it to make it big enough to fit in our wire guardian, well, I didn't twist it wide enough. That would explain it. Just twist it. And remember, don't pull your wires apart, because that will compromise the integrity of the wire. Gee. All right. I finally got that on there. Now, once you get your earring on there, you just twist it back. Just twist it back and slide your spring down, and there you go. You have an earring. Now all you got to do is make the second one, and you'll have a pair. But I appreciate you hanging out with me, and I hope you make the project, and I hope you like it. See you next time.